gosh, wow. Thank you, Emma, for sharing those beautiful words. You're quite amazing, actually. I didn't realize that you were quite so amazing, but you really are. And I'm so proud of you. And thank you, Mary and the HBA, for this wonderful recognition. It is an enormous honor to be selected as the Women of the Year for 2024. And congratulations to Catherine and Otis and to all the HBA luminaries and rising stars who we're celebrating today. Because it's so important for us to recognize the contributions of women in our industry who are making extraordinary impact. And finally, I really have to recognize someone who wasn't able to travel here today. My trailblazing mother, Miranda Greenstreet, who is 91 years old, and desperately wanted to be here, but I have no doubt that she'll be watching this at some point from home in Ghana. Because my mother really has been the most influential person in my life. She's been the inspiration throughout the course of my career, as well as my personal life. So, huge gratitude to you, Miranda. And hello to all of you. So, when you know that you're going to be addressing, when you've been invited to speak to such an accomplished group of aspiring and amazing people that we have in the room today, you kind of take a step back and you reflect on your own career and life. And you hope that with a little bit of humility, you might be able to offer just a few words of perspective. So I'd like to share a bit of my journey, some points of my journey that have shaped me, and a few of the lessons that I've learned along the way. First, I'm sure like all of you, we're a product of our background. Our background has shaped who we are as a person, and I'm no different. I spent much of my early childhood in Ghana in West Africa. I grew up in a big mixed-race family. Some of them are here today. My father's English, my mother's Ghanaian, and my household was incredibly diverse. Different races, different languages, different religions, different cultures. You can imagine that dinner time was a lot of fun. Often noisy, but always fun. So my brothers and sister and I would sit at the dining table and we'd be listening to vibrant conversations about all sorts of things. Things like African economic development. So my dad would be making the case for how important it was that the state-enabled growth. And my brother, who's here today, would be touting the role of the private sector. He's now a banker, what a surprise. And one day we would have visitors who were refugees fleeing from apartheid South Africa. And the next day, an ambassador, perhaps from Romania or Canada. And you know, my parents expected that each of us would weigh in, sharing our own ideas and perspectives. So as I look back, I can kind of see how growing up in this kind of environment gave me a deep appreciation of the value of seeking diverse voices and different perspectives, because I truly believe this is how you come up with the best solutions. And this is something that has lived with me all my life, and it is a fundamental part of who I am and my leadership style. Because I've seen how diversity of all types, backgrounds, cultures, perspectives, really does spark creativity. And that's the business that we're in. Creativity and innovation. You know, those dinner time conversations also help me know the power of listening. It can sometimes be hard to be a great listener in one's professional life. You know, because many of us have an image of a leader in our heads, and this is the image of the leader talking, giving direction, announcing really important decisions. Not the image of a leader listening. Because it takes courage to sit quietly and consider what others are saying. When we feel an expectation, an impetus to be speaking ourselves, it can be hard to ask questions when actually we're all programmed to give answers. But listening deepens our understanding of an issue, and it opens us up to possibilities beyond our own experiences and imagination. So wherever you are in your career, I think it's really important that asking good questions and listening with curiosity accelerates development. So both of my parents were academics. Cue photograph of my mother and father. They met when they were students at the London School of Economics. And they worked as professors at the University of Ghana. They were actually very service-orientated people, and they instilled in all of us a sense that you've got to do something with your life. Life is only worth living if you can make a difference to other people. Now, when I was about 7 or 8 years old, my parents took me on a visit to see one of their friends who ran a medical clinic in Ghana. And I got the chance to spend the day with Dr. May as she met patients, she listened to their symptoms, she prescribed treatment, and really she involved me in the detective work of medical problem solving and diagnosis. Now, you have to remember that this was Ghana a few decades ago, and there was nothing like HIPAA going on there. You could just hang out with a doctor, and she'd say, oh, you can go ahead and palpate that abdomen. And you know what? This is when I was 8 years old. Now, I remember studying the faces of patients. They'd come in the office, they'd be distracted, they'd be worried, they'd be scared. And then they'd leave her office feeling comforted, feeling taken care of. And you know what? I thought this Dr. May was doing an amazing job. And this experience instilled in me a sense that if I was going to commit my life to service of some description, it was going to be in medicine. And I can draw a direct line from that experience many years ago to where I stand today. What a reminder, if we need one, that giving advice generously and opening doors willingly can unleash life-changing possibilities in others. So I managed to fulfill my ambition. I went to medical school in England, and then I had several years of clinical practice and internal medicine as an OBGYN in London. And one of the things that really struck me when I was practicing was the differences in health outcomes between different populations. It seemed that, where you came from could have a bit of an impact on how well you did. Because did we pay as much attention to the woman with poor English that was wearing hijab? Or did we brush off a woman with chest pain as having maybe just indigestion? It happened. So after a few years, I began to dream. I began to dream about having a bigger impact, of improving the healthcare system, where I could potentially help not just the hundreds of patients that I would see every year, but perhaps hundreds and thousands of patients, maybe even millions of patients. So I made a career pivot, and I went to INSEAD in France to study for an MBA. And when I was on that program, I had the really good fortune to meet the head of the medical division at Glaxo. And he got me all excited. He talked about what he was doing, developing medicines, the challenges, the rewards. And I was captivated by the promise of what developing new medicines could do. and the opportunity to bring together my interest in science, my passion for medicine, and my desire to have an impact at a broader scale. And you know what? Before I knew it, I was developing and launching new medicines at Glaxo. My parents hated this decision at the time. They couldn't understand why, after having studied medicine for years and years, that I would leave medicine for business. But my mum knows me pretty well, and she knows that I'm pretty determined. Actually, some in my family may say stubborn, and that for sure I was going to pursue my own path. And it's good to hear that she is now proud of me. And actually, more importantly, proud of the work that we all do. So over the next 25 years, I built my career at 2 large companies, and I rose steadily, into a number of senior leadership positions in Europe and in the US. And of course, there were obstacles along the way. And, even today, there are still so many barriers facing women in leadership positions. Assumptions about what leadership looks like. And even now, when I go to meetings outside the company and I'm accompanied by one or other of my male colleagues, people would quite often approach the man in the group, assuming that he is the CEO. And you know what? He'll point to me and say, no, she's the CEO. You need to be talking to her. And this usually results in some red faces and stutters. But the point gets made one encounter at a time. Now, what might surprise you, though, is that I don't view overcoming obstacles of race and gender as the thing that has defined me or my career. Because to my mind, obstacles are there to be navigated and overcome. Because in the end, if you are determined enough to try to accomplish something important, you will figure it out. You will. And as I think back, there were lots of opportunities where I felt, oh my goodness, you're not good enough to do that job yet, or, I really should be doing X, Y, or Z before I can really think that I can do that. But life doesn't work that way. If you get an opportunity where you think you can make a difference, even if you're not 100% certain, my advice to you is just do it. Jump in. Jump in because you will figure it out. And you know what? You'll grow in the process. I am still learning and growing every day. My team will tell you that. And that's what makes life interesting. It's what makes life vibrant. It's what makes life fun. And then I came to Alnylam. John Maraganore, the company's founding CEO, recruited me. You heard him on the video. We had met some years earlier, and he thought that I could help Alnylam transition from a pioneering R&D company to a global commercial enterprise. And I was fascinated by the science of RNAi. And just as importantly, I was impressed by the passionate people I met, all aligned around this vision of harnessing the power of this revolution in medicine to improve human health. Now, Alnylam was a pretty risky venture back in 2016. We only had a few hundred employees, had no positive phase 3 studies or approved drugs. But I was keen to be part of the mission, and I jumped in with both feet, joining the company as Chief Operating Officer. Now, prior to this, I'd considered CEO roles at other companies. But you know, the substance of what I can do, what I could do in this role was so much more important to me than just the title. Because joining Alnylam really was, if you like, the embodiment of my childhood dream of improving the health of humanity. Alnylam was founded with the ambition to turn the Nobel Prize-winning science of RNAi into an entirely new class of medicines that could silence the genes that cause disease and transform the lives of people with both rare and more common disorders. Now, we've come a long way over the last couple of decades. We've got 5 medicines approved in just under 5 years. But what is really exciting is that what is truly exciting is that we are only just beginning what will surely continue to be an extraordinary journey. So, when I was offered the role of CEO of Alnylam, I had to reflect deeply on whether I was the right person to lead this incredibly important company. So I sought the advice of 2 women who are dear to me. First, my mother. I called her up in Ghana. I said, Mum, I'm thinking that maybe it might be, interesting for me to become a CEO. And she said, what company? And I said, Alnylam. And she said, you have to make a choice. You need to do this. So that was that. So then I called up my daughter, who was a medical student at UCSF. And she said to me, Mum, if you think you can do this, please do it. Because you have no idea what it's going to mean to young women like myself to see you in this position. And so here I am, with huge ambition for what Alnylam can do for patients, with tremendous excitement in building what I think is going to be the next best biotech company, but also with a profound sense of purpose and responsibility as a woman in a position of power. Because helping a great enterprise like Alnylam achieve success goes far beyond. It has implications far beyond me and my career. My leadership, the collective leadership of the women in this room, and the peers that we have in the healthcare industry, will open doors for other women, help other women attain positions of influence in our industry and in society in general. And as I learned at the dinner table in my parents' home, it will unleash more creativity for the benefit of everyone. Now, I do believe that when we as women get the opportunity to take on senior roles, we must step into them. We must have the courage to step into them. Because until there are more of us in leadership positions, society's traditional assumptions of what leadership looks like will persist. One of the important decisions I had to think through when I took on the role of CEO was, what kind of leader was I going to be? I was following in the footsteps of this iconic CEO who'd been the face of the company for 2 decades. I thought really hard. And then for me, I came to the conclusion that there was only one answer. I was going to try to be the best version of me. And you heard Emma point out, it's actually a quote from she said from Oscar Wilde, and something that my father used to tell us when we were growing up. She pointed out a real truth. You may as well be you, because everyone else is taken. So being here with all of you today, this amazing, inspiring, encouraging community that is HBA, reinforces in me a very deep conviction for the importance of what we do together in healthcare, but also the tremendous excitement for what's possible, for new treatments for Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer. And the theme of this conference is transformation and transformational leadership. And this kind of transformation in healthcare is going to require the transformational leadership that HBA both celebrates and, importantly, enables. You know, because all of us who work in healthcare, we have an enormous privilege. We create hope. But along with this privilege comes an enormous responsibility. An enormous responsibility to bring the best of who we are, do the best work we can to help people. We are the hope. And that motivates me every single day. Thank you.